Just like that.
Just like that. Hello, everybody. Welcome. If you're new, one of the things we like to know is hit down in the chat and tell us new or first time, either one down there in the chat. So Morgan knows you're new.
Don't forget to, when you're chatting in, don't forget to switch. I believe you can switch it to everyone versus hosts and panelists. Go ahead and switch over to everyone as well, so we can see what the community.
We're going to have to work on our chairs.
Like
mine's a little bit lower than yours, and I look a lot shorter.
Yeah, mine can move. I can put it shorter.
Fantastic. All right, Morgan, what are you pulling out of me today?
Yeah, while everybody's piling in, remember, don't forget to chat in if you're new. Go ahead and chat in new, so we know that you're here. We have got a busy schedule with Auto Experts this week. We've been doing a lot of traveling. Jared, Keith, and Reese just got back from New York City doing some on-site trainings. Before that, I think we were in Ohio, and then this week we're going northern Utah. The week after that, we'll be in Wisconsin. So on-site trainings are heavily on our mind right now because that's what our schedule is consumed with. So I asked Jared to go live. He probably more than anybody that I know invests the most amount of money in live on-site trainings with his staff, whether he's flying out Dr. Darrow, I've seen you and I've been a part of when he's flown out other mentors, coaches, and trainers out to Utah. Of course, we've flown to places to go to training. So wanted to have him hop on and shine some light on why on-site trainings are more effective than, especially as of late, the virtual trainings that a lot of people do, why they're so important, what the strategy behind the on-site trainings are, both for the ones we do and why you participate in certain on-site trainings.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about those and also, get some feedback from the group. So feel free to chat in a question. We can probably, I think we can unmute them if needed, and let's also get their impact. But most importantly, and I just sent out questionnaires to our coaching group recently, and one of the top questions was that we added for this year is how much do you invest in your team per employee per year? And, we do a lot with KPIs on tracking our marketing budget and how much we're willing to pay for a new patient, a new lead, a new customer. But one of the things that is often overlooked is how much do we invest in our current team? How do we reinvest in sharpening our tools, sharpening our players, and dedicating to their growth individually, their growth within our organization, and their growth as part of our team. And so I've seen wide ranging. I mean, do you have any numbers that you've seen of before working with us, with working with us, and what people have invested in?
For like a per employee average?
Yeah, if you have a number that if you know this at the top of your head, how much does your organization spend per team member per year on improving the team? And if you have that number, chat it in. Tell us what your investment number is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as far as what I've seen in the past, I don't know if you have a number because you do have a bigger team and a bigger budget. What I've seen in the past is it definitely starts low. And I think specifically in our niche of healthcare with audiologists, in the past, the trainings that they've received on site have come from manufacturers, they've come from reps, they've come from people that are showing up with a cookie or a slice of pizza in hand, and that's the investment. The investment really comes from an exchange of goods, from you buying your goods from them, they show up and do a training. So there really in the past hasn't been a big investment, I think, for our particular niche for the people. So it's very, very low. In fact, most of the people that we worked with, especially 2 or 3 years ago, I think everybody was shocked that we were actually even charging to show up on site and spend a day or two with somebody. So little to nothing early on. And even today, I don't think most organizations look at it as how much of an investment am I willing to give per person versus how much does my company spend a year on investment.
Yeah, and I think you look at it too. Like if you look at it as an expense or do you look at it as an investment, right? And I know you'll pull up John Maxwell quotes all day long about reinvesting in your team. But I just hearken back to everybody knows their marketing budget. Everybody knows how much they're willing to spend to get a patient, a customer, a client, a lead. But are we really focusing on building our team up? And I just do you remember how much your Colby certification was?
I do. I mean, do you want me to share? Yeah, I think so. I think to go down, not counting the cost of everything going down there, I think it was like $8,900 or something like that.
Yeah. So not counting your travel, not counting your day away from the office that you got paid for, not counting, you know, the
Hotel
time,
for 3 years.
the time that you've now spent researching and reading on the clock, not counting, you know, the beers you drink or anything else.
Yeah, sure, big budget on alcohol.
You know, not counting those things, $8,900 for that certification. And you now look at the Disney Institute. We've taken people down there. We've taken people to the Ritz-Carlton Leadership Center, and John Maxwell, I know you just brought that one up. Strengths Find. Like, we have all of these programs that different people in our organization are spending on. And, you know, just quickly off the top of my head, I would say we were easily over $10,000 per employee in training and growth last year.
And I was just going to touch on Colby is such a good example, because I think we're going on like 3 years being certified. So there was the initial upfront cost of getting certified, plus the hotel and all that time, like you just mentioned. But there's also been 3 years of expenses, because with Colby, I just got off the phone with the rep today, actually, of the yearly investment to stay certified. Plus you've got to get your CEOs. And then of course they want to sell us things from time to time, or get us to come back or stay certified. So, and
luckily Morgan's about as cheap as they come. So, you know, every time I say, hey, go get certified in something else, or go level up, or go learn a new skill, he's like, but is that really the best investment? But what has Colby done for you in the last 3 years? So if we say, let's just pick a number, let's say 8,900 plus travel, let's say we're into your Colby certification, $17,000.
Sure. Yeah.
What has that done for you? In your career, your life, your growth, your speaking on stage? Like,
yeah, I think as a whole, if I rewind time 3 years ago to the time of getting certified, meeting the people in Colby that I've met, and then having the opportunities with Colby that I've had in the last 3 years, confidence comes to mind. You know that I went up to Park City. It was one of the first events I ever did by myself last year, where I went up and spoke to, I think there's about 50 brokers and real estate agents in a room up in Park City. It just happened to be, I was Colby certified. They reached out, it ended up working out. I went up there and did a full day's training with no Keith, no Reese, no Jared, no nobody, planned it, executed it, pulled it off. And I think not even necessarily without Colby, I wouldn't have had the opportunity, because that's why they hired me. But more than that, the ability to communicate with people and I think stand my ground on who I'm communicating with and what I'm saying, and feeling more confident in what I'm trying to preach to a person, what I'm trying to say. I think that's something I really admire. You brought up John Maxwell, is that when he says something, you know that he's saying it with conviction and it's true. And that's one of the reasons that I really love him. And with Colby, I feel the same way. When I talk about Colby, or I talk about someone's instincts, or why someone might be a good fit or not be a good fit, or why there might be conflict in the workplace, I feel really good about it. And I feel really confident, because it's been 3 years of practicing and preaching what I've.
Do you think you could put a number? I mean, so I know inside, right? We entered the real estate niche. We started coaching real estate agents at about the same time that Morgan spoke on stage to a room full of real estate agents and brokers. So can you even try to wrap your head around a return on investment with Colby and Morgan's growth as an individual, the company's growth as your strength as a coach improved? And like, do you fathom that now after the fact?
No, I mean, to be honest, I don't think I've ever thought about it. If you put it in those terms, I mean, it's got to be close to a 10-to-1 ROI, just as a whole scale. If you consider me as a coach inside real estate, audiology, Cairo, anything else that we've been doing, and I take from Colby the confidence that I've learned, the speaking skills that I've learned, the way to hold events the way Colby does, all of that rolled into one bundle, it's got to be pretty close to $100,000.
And just to sharpen you, pull you back to when I met you, did it sharpen your shovel?
Yeah, sharpen my shovel. Exactly.
Yeah. And so I think, you probably as boots on the ground can explain it much more to the business owners on today of how hard it is to line item out money for your team's development, growth, autonomy, mastery. Yeah. But what does it do for you, the rising star?
Yeah, it's really hard. And I can see why, if that was my money and I was the owner of the business, that does feel like a risk. And for some of you owners, because I know who's on this phone call, you've probably invested that money before and it didn't work out. I mean, even Jared himself has probably invested in somebody getting certified in something and then they never used it, right? It's definitely happened before. So it's a risk. It's a risk that I think if you rewind the clock all the way back to the beginning and you hire the right person and you onboard that person for the right reasons, they believe in your core values, they belong in your business, now is a good time to invest in them. But of course, if you've hired the wrong person and you know you've made a mistake in your hiring process, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to invest in somebody. So I think that was a key difference. If I look at Morgan versus, some of the other employees that we know, or even are in your side of your clinic, the trust value there of time spent together, work effort, commitment level, all of that goes into, are you willing to invest into the people? And it's extremely hard to quantify, because how can you say, go get this certification, and then you never once told me you're going to get Colby certified and then we're going to make money off of Colby, right? Because,
I didn't tell you that up front.
well, maybe I blocked that out, but right, like that's very tricky.
Sure.
Because if it was the 1-to-1 ROI on just Colby related things, that's gonna be a much smaller scale versus what has it done for Morgan the person.
Sure. Well, and you haven't mentioned your book, right?
Yeah.
So we could dive into your book and leading teams. But when I go back, that was one of the wisest investments I've ever put into, Morgan, was his development and leadership. And it comes to the top of my mind because we do quarterly conversations. We do these, these goal setting sessions with our team. And I just had the same conversation with other people on my team. And so how do I tell a client, a customer, a prospective person that just as important as filling the gas on the car is replacing the tires, right? Just as important as putting more money into marketing to fuel growth is developing the team that you're entrusting your patients, clients, customers, and donors to. So I can put a ton of money into marketing all day long to generate more leads, but if I haven't developed my team, if I haven't sharpened their shovel and their skills, I might be wasting those marketing dollars. And so for me, it is still marketing. Like you're talking teams and human development. I'm talking marketing dollars.
Sure.
Yeah. If I don't do that to my team, they're not going to convert as well. And so, yeah, it's a, shame on me once, or shame on me, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you.
Yep.
Yes, I've invested in team members that haven't stayed. I've learned from, not helping them understand how this personal growth or this professional growth will help the organization and them. And maybe I didn't treat some of them as well as I should have, and they learned a great skill and now they're a better person and they left. Yeah. But they left probably because of me or because of our communication.
And you've always been really good at when something does go wrong with an employee, wondering, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? What could I have changed? I want everybody to chat in. If you're on the call, I think I want to know a total number rather than an individual. I think the employee number might be harder. So if you have a total number, I want you to chat in the total number in 2021, the total number money value that you invested in your team as a whole for training, on-site.
Do you want hard costs, or missed opportunity, like missed sales because you closed for a day? Like how crazy do you? This is before tax, after tax conversation.
No, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I just want to know the total amount. If you know it, if you don't know it, then I think you know where we're headed on this conversation, that you do need to know it. How much money last year did you spend on your team? Because the other thing,
mine's over 225,000. I mean, roughly, just ballpark number. I haven't looked at the line item lately, but over 225,000.
Yeah, it's got to be. And what that does, where I was going with that, is right there on your wall in your office chair where you have the core values is abundance, right? Mm-hmm. Because to your point, would I have ever spent $8,000, $8,900, $17,000?
It's pretty hard to get you spend $15.95 on.
Yeah, we're not going to lunch together, right? Unless I've got a coupon for lunch. But I wouldn't have done it, right? So for me, I think what's often missed in business, because you guys wear so many hats, and Jared's really good at juggling his hats. You're the business owner, you're the marketing department, you are sometimes the salesperson for some of the people that are on the phone call. One of the hats you wear is a mentor, right? So my mentor, I was fortunate enough to teach me this idea of abundance. And for him to say, going down to Phoenix, the hotel, the travel, the beers, everything, all of that stuff is nothing in comparison to what you could be as a person if you really go down there and you absorb this, you internalize it, and you do something with it.
Sure.
And it's hard to say, because of Colby, did I write a book? That, again, it's one of those things of, can you draw those lines? I don't think so. But had you not gone to Colby, had you not taught me those rules of abundance?
Well, I mean, on abundance specifically, because I talked to a client today on his weekly call about abundance versus scarcity, and how, when you're hiring, you have to find somebody that has the right money mindset. Yeah. And I know you've been talking about your pillars, but what about this this $100 I gave you not too long ago, and what you did with it because of your abundance.
Yeah, well, oh my God, I hope my wife doesn't watch this. So, from time to time, Jared he'll have cash laying around. Anybody that knows Jared's, when we do on-site trainings, we give cash away as an incentive for people to participate and things like that. And I think it was just a bill that you had laying around, and I don't even know why you gave it to me. I truly don't remember why you gave it to me, but Jared gave it to me.
He doesn't like money as a reward. That's the problem.
And it sat in my wallet for, I don't know, a few days. And I wondered, should I spend it on this? Should I spend it on this? Should it go in the bank? And it just sat there. I don't use cash much, and it sat there. And locally here in town, we have a taco shop that we probably, I don't know if I should say this, but I eat there like 4 days a week.
Definitely, if my trainer's watching.
Yeah.
Don't talk
We
about
love this place, and I love the people that work there. They're always nice to us. They, it's fast, it's in and out, and it's delicious, absolutely delicious. And I'm eating there one day, and it's the same service I always get. It's the same amazing food that I always get. And as I'm leaving, I just happen to notice who I think was the owner, and the chef is back there as well. And you can kind of see into the kitchen. And so I asked for the owner to come out. I gave him the $100 bill and said, this is for you. I don't know if this is a family ran business. I don't know if that's your son, uncle, brother, or just a friend. But your guys' food for the year that I've been eating here is absolutely amazing. It's fantastic. You guys never miss a beat. It's never not good. Love you, appreciate you, keep doing what you're doing. And instantly, grown man in his own restaurant crying, not because it's like I wrote him a check for $1 million, but some stranger coming out of the blue and making his day. So if you've ever read that book on being a day maker, that was my intention of letting go of that $100 of I don't need it. It's been sitting in my wallet. I don't know what I was going to do with it. Might as well give it to this guy who I appreciate being here, and then probably doesn't make a whole lot of tips. And it felt really good. And I ended up coming home that day and telling Jared that story. And of course, we now eat there, and I think I get some street credit now because I get some better looks. But that idea of abundance, yeah, same thing.
But I think that was a great week. I think that was a great week for the team in our company too, of you had the abundance. I had the abundance to flow the $100 to you. And like you said, your wife, your family, your kids could have done a lot with 100.
Sure.
You turn around, gave that 100 away. And then next thing you know, that flow of money, that flow of reinvestment, that flow of abundance came back to us. And I think we signed 2 new clients.
Yeah, we signed the client that week. Yeah. So it definitely happens. What goes around comes around. Energy and all of that stuff is true. So one key point being definitely the thing of abundance. One thing that you brought up a minute ago is that a lot of the owners, they always know numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they owe the wrong numbers. I was just reading an article from Mike Mazilsky that Keith did that podcast.
Author of the Pumpkin Plan.
Yeah, the Pumpkin Plan. And he had a line in this article about business owners knowing ego numbers. And the idea that a lot of us know the numbers about how many clicks we got on a certain thing or how many people went to your website. And he called those ego numbers. And the other numbers that we don't always pay attention to, of course, is the actual revenue that we made from a certain investment or the investment on our people. And so I think that's so interesting. I just read that article, I think on like Sunday night or Sunday afternoon, you sent it to me. And he was talking about ego numbers, which are how many clicks did I get? How many leads did my team get? And we don't know.
Well, in the conversation I was having earlier with this client was this idea of abundance. I would challenge Mike to go even a level deeper of, do you know how much money your team members have left in their bank account at the end of the month?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You want to talk about the alternate or the opposite, the inverse of an ego number is we think, oh, we had a record month and we, did X, Y, and Z, but I'll bet you half your staff still living paycheck to paycheck.
Sure.
Right? And so when I have this conversation about sharpening Morgan's, tools and getting him better as a professional, he could quit tomorrow. He doesn't have a non-compete. Right? So I have to invest in you and my team, strengthen you up, give you mastery, give you autonomy, right? And if you're not writing this down, mastery, autonomy, and purpose are the 3 greatest things you can do to help your team, help you and your organization. So, reinvesting in you, reinvesting in the team. Reese has been through more training. We were just talking yesterday. Reese has been through more training than we have. Yeah. Are you looking at your team at the end of the day or the end of the month when you're hitting these record numbers saying, are they getting everything out of this organization that they could and should, right? Because we might have a record, but they might still struggle to pay their medical bills. And if you can align your desire for growth with helping the team around you be stronger, sharper, masters of what they do, they will, bring that abundance back to you in multitudes.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. And this is the part of the phone call where I love to put Jared on the spot. One thing that I get from owners all the time when I have this conversation about like, basically, where does Jared find the money? Like he's just pulling it out of pockets, right? So you just hired a brand new audiologist, right? And it happened very quickly because I felt like it was a good fit. You let me do your interviews for you. I did a quick introduction with you. The decision was made. And she asked very politely for some additional things like school stuff and things like that were almost kind of icing on the cake. And when those things aren't planned, so like there's your new audiologist that asked for some of that cherry on top. And then you also just went through PPS with all your people. And, you know, everything from I want to pay off my car, I want to pay off my student loans. When you're teaching this idea of abundance, is there really a rainy day fund where you're just pulling money out of your pockets? Or how are you budging that in? Because that's a really scary thing of some of these smaller practices want to help someone pay off their student loans, but how do you afford that? And
well, I mean, there's different stages of a business. So, I mean, luckily we're at a stage now where we've been doing this for 12 years. You know, we have the income coming in, we're in expansion mode again. But I also do remember the days when it was, you know, 3 of us and we were barely paying the bills and the credit card payment maxed out before the end of the month. And, you know, there was a time
don't use this credit card.
Yeah, use this other credit card instead of this credit card. So, I mean, we've been there. We've been in the small business mode where you're juggling, and we've been now blessed to a point where we have a lot more abundance in our life. But the core value that I've had, that abundance mentality I've had, has always been there. And look, my circumstances were different. So I was young, I was unmarried, I didn't have kids, I didn't need to pay myself in the early years. So I was able to, you know, pay more than the going wage. I was able to help people like Morgan and reinvest in themselves, knowing that I didn't need as much, right? As I got married, as we built a house, as we had, you know, the kids are getting older, those things change, but I still don't let myself become first. And I truly believe in the organization, that the organization is the vehicle for the entire team. Right. And if I wanted to, I could maximize my profits, and I could, you know, be flying private yesterday. My practice is big enough to afford me to fly private yesterday. But I also realized that this new audiologist is coming out of school, wants to live in Worcester long term, and her wage just increased that position by 150%. So if the former person would have stayed, I would have been paying 100%. But because the new role, the new demands, the new incentives, it just increased my cost for this position by that 50%. And it's well worth it, right? She's motivated, she's hungry, she's energized. It's my hire now instead of somebody that I got with a previous purchase of a practice. Core values, she's here training, right? That the alignment of her role is well worth that increase in pay. And now we just set proper goals so that my percentages stay in whack. And it's always, I think this is the hard part for a lot of people. Committing future dollars is easy, right? It just means I have to go get it. If I'm committing something that I need to go get, it just means I have to work harder, right? So you ask me all the time, how come another clinic? How come another business? How come a pizza shop? Because if I set my vision on that and I align our purpose and our people, I can go get it. But if you're asking me to commit that last month we didn't pay our bills and now I need to find an extra 50, that conversation is a hard conversation. But if I know next month that we need X number of dollars, we're going to go work hard for it, right? We might be here till 7 o'clock tonight instead of 5 o'clock. We might go add in, you know, I don't know, underwater basket weaving clients or something.
To get some more. Is there advice, like if you put yourself into the mindset of someone that's right on that level, like when is the magic point that all of a sudden, with the clients we work with in Long Island, some in Brooklyn, all around the country, that they're right at that tipping point almost of where you got to switch the credit card sometimes and make things work versus abundance? When that decision needs to be made, is there a formula there? Is it an exactness with the people that you've seen make that transition? Like Long Island, we're going to northern Utah today, this week, and they've probably spent more money in the last 2 years on their people. Like, when is that decision point from now I have a team that I trust, I like, we have this culture, and now I need to invest in my people?
Well, I think you have to go back once again. I'm going to challenge everybody to go back and what's the vision or the purpose here, right? Because if you're just asking me, when do you spend money and when do you not spend money, I can't give you a strong recommendation. But depending on what your vision or your goal is, sure, I can give you a recommendation. Oftentimes, we're not setting big enough goals, right? So if you're on that borderline and you're wanting to add a new staff member, a new salesperson, chances are your goal is not big enough. If you're struggling to pay your current bills, but you want to hire another associate, you need a bigger goal. And even if you don't accomplish 100% of that bigger goal, if you accomplish 80% of that bigger goal, you're going to be able to afford that associate, right? And I know a lot of our current clients are saying, am I ready for a second office? Am I ready for another associate?
Yeah.
And what I have to do is I have to shove them off the edge sometime and say, you need to set a bigger goal and you need to go get it.
Yeah.
Because there are in our niche, there's plenty of patients, there's plenty of revenue, there's plenty of money out there in the world today. There's not enough people going to get it.
And I love what you just said, because you said it depends. And I think that's true, because if anyone was to come to you, right, if their intention, like, it depends, the difference of that is intention, right? So if your intention with your business is to be the absolute most profitable that you could be, you're probably going to give them different advice.
You better be seeing your own patients. You better not be hiring anybody.
And you can answer your own phones, and you don't even need a phone anymore.
Well, how many leads come in that we turn away every month in audiology, who is a single provider? He answers his own phone and sees his own patients, and that's not our avatar A client. So we turn those people away. You're not ready for what we do to help you scale, to help you exit, to help you turn your high paying job into an investment. Right. And so you have to know what is your vision, because we could sign 10 new clients tomorrow, but they're juggling answering the phone and seeing patients. It's not the right fit.
They're not ready. That's not the best fit for them. So definitely, and I think what I'm hearing you say, and what you're challenging them again, is go back to your VTO. If you're using a vision traction organizer or a dream board or whatever it is that you use, go back to that board. Make sure that your next 90 days, 1 year, 3 years, and 10 years is lined out. And then live.
And does this decision fit the vision? Does this decision fit the purpose? Does this decision fit the track we're on?
Act intentionally.
Right. But you know as well as I do, if you would have asked Rosie, can we increase the pay of our new audiologist in Worcester? What's her answer?
No.
Right. So anytime I ask my administrator, right, can we buy a new plant for the office? Can we paint the office? Can we get new carpet? The answer is always no. My answer is always yes. And guess what? We make payroll, we pay the bills. I have a new house being built. We have new car.
I think that's what's so tricky, right? It's like, it's a great, you have your admin, that's kind of your stone wall. It's her job to watch the money. She's doing her job. When she tells you no, she's doing her job. And you're just like, yes, we can. And then you find a way. To your point, I can promise future money because I'll go get it. For some of the owners that are on the call, they're Rosie and Jared. So there's this Jekyll and Hyde of, yes, I want to grow my company, but I don't want to walk away from my $300K that I make a year and take away from my own pocket.
Of course.
So,
well, I mean, if I come in next week and say I'm spending $2,500 on a new picture behind us here, are you going to have an issue with that?
I mean, I'm going to definitely, I'm going to try and hide your credit cards. But at the end of the day.
But don't you think, doesn't everybody here, I mean, like it? Do you like the Pebble Beach picture? Do you not like the Pebble Beach picture? Chat it in.
Do we need $2,500? But do they hire an admin to restrict themselves, or do they learn abundance and spend more money?
Well, I mean, look, I would not trade Rosie for anything, right? I'm where I'm at today because of the team around me, and Rosie's a critical part of that. And so you need a healthy friction. You need somebody that will challenge you and will say no. At the same time, if you have a very strong 10-year, 3-year, 1-year plan, you have core values and you've shared it with your team, you can justify almost any decision or plan you want that aligns with it. So if I tell Morgan we need to, 10x our video studio here, right? Of course he's going to say, well, I would never spend that kind of money, but I understand based upon your vision, based upon us doing more audio and video, that we need those tools, right? And then we hold those dollars accountable. I hold Morgan accountable, right? I hold that Colby certification that I invested in accountable. He wrote a book on it. He went and spoke to real estate agents on it. He has to practice it. He has to share it with my team. He has to stay up on his CE. It's not like we wasted the money. We invested the money, and that money has easily come back as an investment. So how you're looking at your spending and your investing, I invested in a brand new audiologist, right? Who you were impressed with, who I'm impressed with, who has big goals, bigger than most of my current team.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make it happen for her. And if it happens for her, it's going to happen for me tenfold, right? So it's well worth that.
I love that mindset of it lifts all ships.
Yeah,
right?
a rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah, because you said I'm willing to give back to my team, right? And there's a certain book about profit first,
Yeah.
to make sure that you as the business owner get what you're due,
Mhm.
and then there's a certain level of abundance. Is there
Sure.
the same way that there's profit first? Is there any advice that you have on abundance, investing in your team, anywhere that you've seen or been with your
I mean,
success?
any of this spend, you just have to make sure there's alignment, right? And if you know what direction you're going, I find it very hard to fail, right? Most people don't make bad decisions about their own life or their own business. Most people make decent decisions and then have improper execution, right? So if I have a client that wants a new associate, I think that's the right decision. They know in their heart that they don't want to sell hearing aids anymore. They don't want to see patients anymore. They don't want to be the manager.
Yeah.
But now you have to properly execute that decision,
Yeah.
and align that decision with your goal, and then hold that decision accountable. And that's where it goes off the rails. Hiring a new associate or overpaying versus the current wage, that's not the problem. The problem is doing that and then not holding it accountable.
Right.
And I would look at a car, right? You're going to go on vacation. The gas you put into that car, you're putting into that car before you ever leave.
Yeah.
So I view most of, if not all of my expenses as investments. If I put extra money into that team player, that's fine. I'm going to have to put the cash out up front. And if I need to go mortgage the house, if I need to take on investors, if I need to sell a watch, if I need to, X, Y, or Z, I'm going to go find that, because I know it's an investment that's going to pay dividends back to me.
I love that. When you make an investment, and it's actually time to do the on-site trainings, like we've been doing a ton of them lately.
Yep.
Is there key components to an on-site training leading up to the actual training that will happen, whether it's been with your staff or trainings we've been to? Are there like key components of the training that you feel like some people miss that need to be added to either their future trainings on site or trainings that we go to that other people don't do? What are like the key pillars?
Yeah, I mean, I had a great conversation. We have somebody coming in from New York next week. And it's the homework or the preparation up front. I think the number one thing that strikes us is when we show up for an on-site training, or somebody flies into St. George for a training, is when they come and they're like, well, I didn't know why I was coming. I don't have an agenda. There's nothing I specifically want to learn. I'm just here because I was told to be here, or I was here because you guys told me I should come here. And if that's the point, cut that. You're not holding those dollars intentional or accountable. If you're not having planning meetings and you don't have pain points that we're going to specifically address, it's still going to be a great training. I think everything we say or do has a nugget here or a nugget there, but it can't be as intentional or as impactful.
And I think if I was to relate that to what you said, right, it's like filling up your gas tank and then leaving, not knowing where you're going.
Yeah.
So it might be beautiful. It might have been a beautiful drive.
The gas worked well.
You might end up in the middle of Mexico, which is not where you intended.
But the gas did its job.
Yep.
The gas fueled the vehicle to drive X number of miles. It just, you went in the wrong direction.
Absolutely.
Right. And how many times have we showed up with a training with X as our plan, but the minute we opened the doors to the team, we started having to talk about why.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So that's where I was, the biggest pillar for me is that intentional, the intention of the training prior to the training. Like the homework that a person needs to do before the training, the why before the training. And a lot of that has to come from you guys, unfortunately. I had two great phone calls with two different clinics today that we have future trainings with.
Sure. And
on both of them, I shared the same message. Why am I coming to you? Because it's not like I knocked on your door and showed up and said, let me in, I want to do a training. That we were approached.
That's next, by the way, on your core responsibility.
I'm sure we can hire some young incumbents to knock doors for us, right? There was intention there of you reached out to us and now we're going to do a training for you. So what I think is really interesting here, where I'm going with this, is there's always two sides to a story, right? Or three. There's yours, mine, and the truth.
Sure.
And what's really interesting about on-site training is the owner always wants one thing or two things, whatever. They always have an intention of what they want. And then what I really love, what I kind of get a kick out of, the most things I enjoy on on-site trainings is when we show up. And now because there's this external force there, the staff gets brave. And when the staff gets brave, they come out of their shell and they start saying, well, I don't know my job.
Sure.
And I wasn't trained properly, and I love that, not because, I mean, it is pretty sick, but I love it because that is honest and it's raw and it's truthful, that we don't know what our job is. We don't know how we fit into the piece of the puzzle. We don't know how we contribute.
What you just told me, and if you rephrase the question a little bit better, maybe I need to send him to NLP, is what is the frustration I have as a practice owner with trainings? Because you've seen Keith come into my practice, you've seen Reese come into my practice, and I've been very specific. I want them to learn this.
Sure.
And the next thing you know, even in my own training with my own team that I think I have influence on, they're talking about, RS&T.
What they really want to
talk about. And so as an owner looking back on trainings, I need to recognize that it shouldn't be about me. Right. And it's as frustrating as ever, because I think I've done a great job. I think Kaylin's done a great job explaining core responsibilities or process or the why behind what we do. And then here comes, an old employee, and here comes a brand new employee. Neither of them have been recalibrated often enough to understand it. Now they're asking my highly paid coaches that flew in from outside the easiest of questions that I'd be happy to answer, but apparently they won't ask me. Right. So listening to your team and what they want, and you just saw in our monthly training last month, we did an anonymous survey.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, you've said it before, employees lie.
Yeah.
Or don't tell the truth. And so with the anonymous survey, everybody came back and told me, here's what I rated the different sections of that training. Here's what I want to see next, because their name wasn't associated with it. And they didn't feel like they would be attacked or berated or belittled.
Yeah. Because by the way, I've seen this before. When you ask an employee, how'd the training go?
Great.
Right. One word. It's always one word.
Yeah.
Great, good, fine, awesome. I loved it. Right. But then when you send in a survey out, it's like, I think.
What did you learn?
Better.
The question of what did you learn
Yeah.
specifically to impart in your daily role versus how was the training? And just asking the question differently elicits a different result. Taking their name off of the survey elicits a different result. Having look at the independent third parties that do polling. Because you can't trust this poll or that poll. It has to be an independent party asking the question.
Yeah. So the meeting before the meeting is crucial for me.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing now more than ever, is that the owner always wants one thing. The team sometimes does want the same thing, but before we get to that, we've got to knock out 1, 2, and 3 before we get there. So the meeting before the meeting has to happen. Regardless of how much you think you know about your business, or how much you think you know the right thing, or what's broken in your clinic, we just need to finish this one thing. You have to include your team. So meeting before the meeting to me is crucial. During the meeting, I have 3 of them. So that would be my number 1, is meet with your team before we get there or any training happens. Meet with your team and find out what is all of their why, what do they want to get out of it. 2, in the meeting, I think the biggest thing that's always missed is not finishing with to-dos. So in a lot of trainings that I've witnessed, I've been a part of, or we've gone to, the training's amazing. It's like putting the gas in the gas car and you go, and the scenery is beautiful. The training's awesome. Lights, camera, action. The handouts are cool. Everything's awesome. And there's an amazing book. You can't teach a kid how to ride a bike at a seminar. And what I see failed a lot is you go home and you say, that was an amazing seminar. And you shower. By the time you've showered Saturday and Sunday and you go back to work on Monday, you don't remember anything.
Yeah.
And you left your manual at home because you forgot it, and you've got Monday to-dos and the email's full, and I have a meeting, and you're right back into the grind.
Sure.
And that's a huge window of opportunity that's missed by not assigning what needs to be done. And I remember 2 or 3 years ago, we were at a mentorship program, and the mentor said, draw a line right down the middle, right on the left side of that line, stuff I'm going to do. On the right side of that line, great ideas. And the only thing that matters at the end of the day when you go to leave that meeting is that the left side of that page, the stuff I'm going to do, gets done.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great entrance point for SMART goals and making sure that actually gets done the right way. But trainings that don't have to-dos is a massive mistake. It's a giant waste of money.
And it might be a little bit more second nature for you. We use 90, a lot of software to hold our teams accountable and have these conversations. We're not perfect at it, but we do use it. And your follow-up calls post-training can be just as impactful, if not more impactful, to bring conclusion, consistency, and steadiness to whatever was started at the on-site training. So that on-site training, if you're a first-time person coming to a training or allowing us to come to you, that first training is the starting point, right? But the consistent conversations with Morgan or Reese or Keith or myself after is where you're going to gain the most traction. And also along with yours, I would say the next part is how often do we have a training and it's once a year?
Thank you. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And it's like, hey, we had a great first quarter in 2020 and it kind of tapered off in second and third. And so I think in 3 more months, we should have you back and let's do it again. And I'm always like, if you're watching the ebb and flow of your practice, right? In my practice, your practice, and I think in 90 and in the entrepreneur operating system, it was so, when it hit me, 4 years ago, it hit me that we all operate in this 90-day cycle. And if we have our trainings more consistently, we have our check-ins quarterly, and we have a good cadence. It's like riding a bike. I started riding a road bike a few years ago. If we have a good cadence, not the fastest speed, not the biggest hills, but a good cadence to what we do, we can maintain higher numbers throughout the year. We don't have to have this high first quarter and then wait until next first quarter to have us back for training. Yeah. And so this year we had most of our clients that are, really into it and really following the letter of our blueprint, what's worked in my practice, that are signing up for these 90-day training plans. And they've realized that one visit by Odd Experts isn't the same as an ongoing training plan where we can maintain high numbers. And it reminds me of marketing years ago. We did spike marketing, had a great month, and then 6 bad weeks, and then a great month. And consistency will get you to where you want a lot faster than those high ups and low lows. Yeah, nobody wants to ride that roller coaster. And the consistency it's true in life too, right? Because if you look at it from a business aspect, it makes sense. Like you said, we use that software 90. A lot of our clients use it where you can see it. It's either black or green. You're winning or you're losing. And yes, you will have higher numbers by being consistent. The other thing that I love about this ongoing training, number 3 that I was going to mention, is this ongoing consistent training follow-up, is that when you're consistent in life, when you have tracking mechanisms and you know that you're off track, you're a lot quicker to catch that behavior and change it. Before going 6 weeks of negative numbers, you might go 1 week and get on an L10 or get on a meeting with your staff where everybody raises flags and says something's not right here because we're no longer consistent. True. So, well, and how long would you let your son do a bad behavior? Exactly. And then you're going to let him reinforce that. But if you smack his hand or, spank him, if that's still allowed in today's world, if you do that and correct the behavior quicker, not only do you not have to put up with the bad behavior for 6 weeks or 9 weeks or however long, but you reinforce good behavior. And all of a sudden you turn the tide and your lows are never again as low as they once were. Exactly. And that's what I love about, like, for instance, the car giveaway is what we're really trying to do is, the car giveaway is fun and everybody loves it. What we're really trying to do is change behavior and instill good behavior. Because if you wake up with meditation, you wake up with a plan, you wake up with a workout, whatever it is that your thing is, you are more likely to have a better day. Sure. Well, and just on the car giveaway, the first few weeks, some people were like, oh, I didn't remember to send it Friday. And I'm like, oh, you can catch up the points. Yeah. Right. But if I would have let them have the points for being late, now that I've reinforced that it's okay to do it Monday morning instead of Friday before you leave. Yeah. And that's just what you'll tolerate. Yeah. And you'll teach them. You'll let flies in your business if you want flies in your business. So those are the 3 for me, whether you're going to do an on-site training with us, you're going to do an on-site training by yourself, you're going to bring in a third party, especially if it's a third party that doesn't know this stuff or you're not sure because they've never done a training for you before. Communicate with your team before the training. Make sure there's to-do and action items at the training, and make sure you schedule follow-up. Because if you do a training and it's the most kick-butt training you've ever done and everybody loves it and everybody's all excited, and then they go 6 weeks without talking about it again, you're training your staff that we show up and do a bunch of work and then we do nothing. Yeah. We show up. Well, and there's a couple people, I know Michelle's on, maybe if she can chat in. So Michelle came out to Utah. We had a great training for an entire week. We talked about a lot of things marketing. And then she had to go back to the office, right? And so then life gets in the way. And I just wonder, right, if we would have had more feedback, if we'd had more communication, where would her progression be in her role versus maybe where it is now, because it's been a few months, right? And so I don't know if Michelle's available, chat in, or Morgan can unmute you, but right, how has that feedback loop left? Because you left with a bunch of great information, and then without questions back and without closing that feedback loop, I think that our progression has probably slowed or stopped. And so if we don't have another, if I don't see you in March, if we don't have another interaction, my worry is we start slipping down that scale. And so for everybody else on here, the same thing is, what is the cadence in your practice? Maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's monthly, maybe it's daily huddles, but you have to have a cadence to achieve what you want.
Yeah, and one of the things that we have for Cadence is our masterminds, right? Like, people always wonder, do I need to come? Should I be there? Do I have to? And I think if you were to take any client that's been at a mastermind, like last year, for instance, you look at their numbers leading up to the mastermind and you look at their numbers after the mastermind, that ROI, the positivity, what you can count and what you can't count, meaning positivity in the culture of the clinic, when they go home and motivate their staff because they're motivated, and the money that they've made after a mastermind. Well, yes, you should be at every mastermind we ever do.
Well, what about the practices that show up for a mastermind and the ones that don't? When you compare their year over year growth, right? Participation, engagement, you see the growth, right? And so you have to look back at your numbers and say, what did I miss? What did I not do? What do I need to add next year? And be willing to look in the mirror and be honest with, what could I have done better? Which,
by the way, just as I don't think I told you this today, I think I have one of our clients now convinced, who doesn't like to travel, he's going to send his director in his behalf to Phoenix for the first one. So just as a comparison of like Colby, right? Like, that's her first experience to leave the clinic for 2 days. She's their main phones person, leave the clinic for 2 days, get paid, invest the money for travel, come to a mastermind, get brainwashed and dumped by us, and then go home and bring all that motivation and all that power back to her team.
Somebody's got to bring it back.
It's really fun to watch her non-owner come out and do that and bring it home.
So my question, let's see, we got Michelle.
Since I was out, my position shifted a bit on my focus and changed on some things. I will be training in March. I'll be at the training in March. Yeah. So that's a good example to me too, right? As we talked about this. Changing seats quickly, like that rapid change and the rapid progression. And I think where Michelle is at now, I think she's extremely happy with the position that she has. But I go all the way back to the hiring process and the onboarding and the expectations of a person, because I think if Michelle was available to speak freely, right, it's probably not been a fun ride. Right. And had she skipped that marketing in the week that she came out here for and went straight to NPAD and straight to training phones people and straight to being a part of that team, it would be a heck of a lot less rocky. And I think, but
even look at, if you go back, right, from the time Michelle was here to the time the previous marketing conversation happened with Jared, it was 12 months. Now it's only been 3 months and she's coming back in March. So the frequency of good behaviors, the frequency of coming and asking questions, the fact that she did come a few months ago and learned, and now she can come in March and ask even better questions, right? So every interaction makes you stronger, right? You don't jump from lifting no weight to lifting a lot of weight. You kind of gradually get there. Yeah. And so somehow, even this interaction, while not perfect with Michelle, right, the feedback loop and her ability to come learn, process, ask questions, come learn again, ask questions, come learn again. And if we connect those dots, she was here in November, December, we were there in January, and she's coming in March. So now we're getting these touches more often, and the results there are taking off.
Yeah. And she just chatted in again. Michelle, thank you so much. She said, I love my opportunity to come and train with you guys. And it sounds like she would absolutely do it again, because she'll be within March.
And you told me that people don't like being around me. So
they like me. I think Michelle's saying that I really liked being trained by Morgan at the time that we were.
So I want to put you on the hot spot now. So you're going to Wisconsin, and you're training a real estate agency. Yeah. And a bunch of real estate agents.
Yep.
So we talked about training and consistency and more often. So tell me about this real estate thing. Like, are you going full same plan, same pre-meeting? Did you do that with Bobby? What is this process looking like in real estate as opposed to audiology or medical?
Yeah, I think, yes, it's a great question. So for me, I believe we have a playbook that works, right? With the communication tactics that we have, the sales skills that we have, the teachings that we teach people crosses all business. So I will still go. She's still going to learn great things like sales dominoes and late. She's still going to learn about the Colby. The team's already taken all the Colby A's and B's. So my plan won't change. I believe that training structure that we have is proven time and time again. The manual works, the words work, real estate, chiropractor, audiology. My plan is to go out there and do the exact same thing. It's just a bigger team and a team that doesn't know me.
Gotcha.
Which has its own.
Still
values.
mindset still might go a little wonky once you get there, and
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, every business that I've worked with so far, because we also, right, we talk to the accountant, we talk to the guy that builds houses or whatever. Every business that we come across has the same or similar problems. I think that's a fair statement. I don't know what I do here. I don't know how I fit. I don't know what culture I have, and I don't know what to do with my staff to motivate them.
Mhm.
And so that to me crosses all bounds. And if I can help these owners motivate their staff, teach them where their people fit, how to incentivize their staff, that's across.
you know what I want to put here for next time, right? I want to put the 4 auto experts pillars,
Okay.
right? You
I'm
just
gonna
hit on
say
it. So
my face.
you just hit on it, right? So Morgan just said mindset,
Mhm.
right? Culture, the knowledge of their profession or their skill set, right? And then the marketing systems that go with it.
Yep.
You just said the 4 pillars, you just didn't use the exact word, right?
Yeah.
And so have they honed their craft, whether it's ears, teeth, eyes, real estate, construction, accounting?
And the answer is no, right? Because the
Mhm.
answer is no for me and you as well. It's the same reason that we still pay a coach to this day. Well, I'll always pay a coach and you're always going to pay a coach and I'm always going to have a mentor, just because all of us can improve.
Sure.
So
Fantastic. Any other questions? We have a few minutes. We can wrap up. Somebody type in some live questions. How are we gonna get more engagement? We're gonna have to like turn this into a meeting instead of a webinar and make people show their faces.
Yeah, I would love if we forced everybody to show their faces.
We're buried in their pockets right now and their phones face down on the desk. So
Yeah, or running, working out to the gym.
come on, Michelle, you gotta have one question for me. Who else is on the top of that list? I can barely leave.
Chris
Lane,
Fitzlane.
Faith,
Yeah.
Chris, Keith. What kind of questions do we have? There's got to be a marketing question you got, Michelle. You're building a new team. You got a culture question, a mindset question.
She asked me some great hiring questions via email the other day. One of the questions that Michelle asked me, while hopefully somebody else is typing in a question, was, how do you know in the interview process whether or not they're a good fit for your culture? And I told Michelle, I don't know if you want to chat in, Michelle, but I told her the more you can be transparent with where your company is headed, how you've gotten to today, the disasters that you've had in the past, the frustrations that you've had in the past, the more you can talk about, articulate, and explain what it is that your culture is. Like if you can't define your culture, you just have to talk until this person gets an idea of you're crazy and this team's all over the place, or your culture is one that you're figuring it out as we go. And I want to be a part of that, because for them, that was the truth. We are figuring this out because it's a new team. We've never had this team before. So when you're trying to decide, is someone a good fit for me? Definitely more than one interview. That was one, hopefully a mistake that we avoided. Michelle is doing more than one interview. Sometimes you got to take them to the golf course, the pickleball courts, out for a burger. It doesn't matter. Get them somewhere where they can be themselves. And if you're questioning if they know or understand your culture, that just means that you haven't done a good job explaining it. Because if I asked you, can you tell me about your family and what makes your family you, what it is about the Hutchings family that makes you guys you, I would think all of us could explain in an instance why we love our family so much, why we're such a close group, what it is we like to do, what makes us us. So if you can't explain that about your business, it just means you don't know. And so if you're honest with yourself and you can understand, I guess I don't know my culture to the extent I should know my culture, then you can hopefully pause your hiring process and go back to the drawing board. So when you do get to that point, your staff that you're interviewing isn't wondering what's the culture, because it just means you haven't done a good job articulating it.
So Kim has a question there, and I want to wrap Kim's question. You can read it into the conversation you overheard me having with a client today prior to their arrival in St. George, because you told me that I was rude and direct and ruthless, and that was Jared's pre-meeting meeting, right?
Yeah.
So I think Kim's asking that same question.
Yeah. So Kim's specific question is, what's the number one thing I can do in my L10 tomorrow to make sure we get the most out of this training with you guys? So they're the team we're going to go and train here in a few days. So Kim and I have done a lot of work. Kim and I had a phone call on Monday, which to me was my pre-meeting meeting with Kim. What do you want out of this meeting, Kim? Why are we doing this thing? And she had some great notes there. I also, Kim, called one of your leaders. I actually spoke to Jessica, who's their team leader for audiologist, HIS. She's kind of in charge of that realm. So provider wise, I already spoke to one of her leaders and I got her 2 cents and her input, and that was my pre-meeting meeting. So I have a plan, all right, I have a structure, I have my manual that I'm showing up with, I have my plan. And now Kim, the owner, is saying, well, what could I do now that you guys have said this to double down on and make sure my staff is ready? And to not overcomplicate it, because I think it's very, very simple, is on your L10, the first or second issue that you're going to add, because I don't want to add it as a headline, I want to add it as an issue so that we can actually have a discussion about it, is these guys are coming for training. What would you guys like out of the training? And I would like if the team, for your size of a team, could spend at least 30 minutes going through as individuals, what do they need from us? And then as an organization, what do we need? Because there's a difference there. There's a difference of what Morgan needs as a person from Odd Experts and what Odd Experts needs as an organization. So I think
well, and how different is what the owner needs or wants versus the brand new hire that's never even met us, versus Jessica that's the director, right? Everybody's at this different stage. And to think a one size fits all training is going to touch on those habits, or if they're shy or they have personality issues, I mean, right, who knows what the reasons are.
Yep. And you might, let's say you do go in, just to give you a little bit of role play, Kim, let's say you go into this meeting with your staff tomorrow and you say, hey, Odd Experts is coming to train us. We're going to have one full day together. It's going to be jam-packed with information. I want to make sure you guys get everything out of the training that you want to get. What do you guys want from the training? What comes to mind? And everybody just stares at you because they don't feel like they can say something. They don't know what to say. They've never been to a training with us before, so they don't know what's available. Is you might have to probe a little bit. And that's something that Reese is really good about. Of if you did have a question, what would the question be? So don't be shocked. Don't be frustrated. Don't be annoyed if you get a lot of blank stares, because a lot of people on your team haven't ever been to a training. So that's where I would really rely on Jess, your team leader, to say, here's some of the stuff I've been thinking about. And once she speaks, I'm more likely to speak.
And it reminds me, we do this a lot with blank sheets of paper. Don't write your name on it, not like, you know, kindergarten or elementary school. Put your questions down on this piece of paper and send a picture to Odd Experts, or just email Morgan directly, or you have to give them a way in a safe place to submit their feedback, whether that's the anonymous survey I talked about earlier, whether it's a blank sheet of paper. We were in Ohio, and of course, right, the client out there says, well, I'm going to get the handwriting expert to come tell me who wrote what. And I'm just like, you know, as much as we know that's a joke, the everyday team member does have a certain level of fear from us owners. So I like that exercise a lot. And anytime I'm looking for differing opinions from a team, I like the blank sheet of paper, because they're afraid to look dumb. They're afraid to submit a question. They're afraid to be laughed at. And I've seen crazy answers on the blank sheet of paper that are vastly different. And I probably would be embarrassed if I was the one that answered it that way. But the reason for the training is to align the team. The reason for the training is to give them the mastery, autonomy, and purpose. So we need to have a little bit of embarrassment. We need to kind of share our dirty laundry if we want to move beyond and improve upon it. So blank sheet of paper, anonymous survey, email Morgan directly. You don't need to bring it up on camera in front of everybody during the L10. Just somehow get your questions asked. And I think Kim's alluding to what you told me I was rude today. So I want to hear this live. I want to hear this. I was asking tough questions about somebody that's coming here for a week.
Yeah, so I don't want Kim to necessarily do that with her team, though. I mean,
I just so that, like, right, we were gonna have somebody come here who didn't know why he was coming.
Yep.
And so I made him and his owners figure out why you're coming before you come here. And maybe it was painful. I don't think it was painful, but tell me.
Yeah, it's a similar conversation of what you and I, Kim, had on Monday. Is like, this training doesn't make sense unless we have intention. So from you, the owner's perspective, why is it that we're coming, right? And you sent me a long list of objections that the team had, overcoming things that we needed to get to. And then one big thing was just make sure the whole team is on the same page. And I think if you're feeling that as the owner, the team's going to feel that as well. But
so can I pause you right there? So I just heard alignment. I just heard that our vision and purpose needs to be aligned with the brand new hire, with the people that were hired a few months ago, and with Jessica, who's been like, we need alignment, right? You're coming in here to make sure our mindset is right and our alignment is the same. And I can put the best wheels into alignment. And the minute that my teenage daughter hits the curb, those wheels are out of alignment.
Sure.
Right. Sure. So let's just remember, we want to leave with alignment when we're up there. Yep. But that the minute that a patient comes in with a tough question or an objection, the minute we have a bad week or don't hit our goals, we're going to be knocked out of alignment. And we need to remember for the next 90 days that our focus is aligned.
Yeah, and that's why those three things are so important. So if you have, Kim, if I hope this helped, message in if you have another question, but if you have the pre-meeting meeting tomorrow and you do a great job, if everybody's looking at you blank, my suggestion, Jared's suggestion is to do the blank piece of paper. I think you have people on your team that are going to say, I have a question about this and I have a question about this, but the blank paper doesn't hurt if they're not giving it up right away, right? And then in the meeting, we're definitely going to leave with some to-dos and some action items. And then third, what Jared just mentioned is Monday is going to hit, right? Monday and Tuesday are inbound. There's going to be a full inbox. Someone wants to return something. Someone's upset. The weather is bad. Stuff happens. And so when that goes awry, we have to have follow-up in place. That's recalibration with Reese. That's phone calls with Morgan. That's marketing phone calls with Jared. We have to keep pressing on. We can't just stall and stop the journey.
So, but I need you to answer this question. What could I have done better earlier?
You could have been not so aggressive in the way that you asked questions. I don't know how else to put it for you, but I mean,
like, was I wrong in principle or just in execution?
Yes. I don't know if your wife's ever said it to you. It's not what you said, it's how you said it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Any other questions?
It's a good question, Kim.
Fantastic. Well, we hope to see you guys back next week. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to dive deep or Morgan to pull out of me, it's a great forum to let him know. Hope you guys had a great night and we'll talk soon.
See you guys.